As we have the start list now, the races are coming thick and fast, and these all-important qualifying races in each of these Olympic class events this morning. In lane 1, Great Britain; lane 2, Romania; lane 3, Poland; lane 4, China; lane 5, Greece; lane 6, Italy. This is the lightweight women's double sculls, Martin.
Yeah, and this race so important. Craig and Grant, the British world champions. Top 3 will go through to the Olympics, but only 1 from the B final. There's only 7 qualified from this year's World Championships. The British had an accident with the Romanian women's quad yesterday. They rammed it and created a hole in the boat. I don't know how that might have affected them. Let's see. The Romanians, they're closest to us. Ilona Kozmiuk, double world champion. Behind Marina Lauda Dimitru in the bows. The Poles have impressed throughout. Big heritage in lightweight women's double sculls, or double sculls, of course. Katarzyna Welner and Martina Radosh in that boat. There are the Chinese, Xi Jinping and Zhu Shiquai in the bows of the Chinese boat. Both women raced in this event last year, finished 8th. The Greeks, Kontu and Fitso, well, they might do something from that lane. They are a really impressive double. Dimitri Kontu won the under-23s just a couple of weeks ago. And the Italians, the Olympic champions. Lovely to see Valentino Rodini back in the boat, but up against it in this lane 6. Valentino Rodini and Federica Cesarini in this near side lane.
Well, unsurprisingly, smoothly away in these women's lightweight doubles. Martin, you talk about that Italian double winning the Olympic Games back in Tokyo. Back then, this was one of the closest events of the Olympic Games. You could have literally thrown a blanket over the crews as they came across the finish line. Today, I wonder whether those Italians will be able to perform from that side of the course. Rodini and Cesarici in a difficult position on lane 6.
Yeah, good start by all the crews. You can see it maybe is just the Romanians and the crew from China, Zhu and Kui, a little bit off the back. But the Italians have gone out with a purpose, and it's almost the Italians, I'd say, that are leading the race at this moment.
They are certainly by about a canvas. The Italians fast starting. Rodini and Cesarini, a surprise to see them out here on lane 6, but I think that the crew from Romania over in lane 2, who has had a bit of a slower start, and of course the British will be the 2 crews to watch here, but a strong start across the field.
Yeah, it looks like one of those races again, doesn't it, where we're seeing these crews in lane 5 and 6 really going for it off the start to try and get in, try and get a lead, and then the opposite happening on the other side of the course. The crews in lanes 1 and 2, as we're looking at the British, all conquering doubles since Tokyo, have just settled into their race. They know it's going to be a long race, and you can't help thinking their hope is they settle into a pace and they're just going to ease their way through.
Well, the British look really comfortable, cool, calm and collected. The Italians, to my money, you know, it's really going to matter who comes fourth in this race. With the B final, the winner only making it through to Paris, you've got to get a good lane for the B final. And,
yeah, absolutely massive to get into the A final, because that, like you say, the B final is going to be all important, only 1 place qualifying. But Sarah Cook, I noticed you said earlier how some of the crews were getting into a lower stroke rate. Some of them were really using rate as their friend. I noticed the British have gone out low here, and yet they're starting to ease their way back.
They are. They're down on 34, 33 strokes per minute, which is not really typical of lightweight rowing in particular, but I think maybe that's indicative of their gearing. Perhaps they've got a bit of a heavier gearing than the rest of the field, but they're certainly getting distance per stroke at that stroke rate. So they're not getting sort of slow and bogged down and left behind. They're able to keep the pressure on in this headwind and really lean back into it.
Yeah, no, really nice to hear that, Sarah, as we're looking now, the Italians who look like they're trying to have some lightness, they're trying to have some quickness, keeping the stroke rate up, keeping the boat moving like that, as compared to that British pair that we saw, who looked like they were really locking the blades in, moving it past and letting it run even in these conditions.
Head down for Valentino Rodini, focus in her boat, but that fast start is kind of deserting them now as they drop back through the field. You kind of think their race might be done. The Greeks hoping to get back into it. I still take the Greeks to do something in the second half of this race. But that established Chinese double, Zhu Kui and Kui Ping, not in the Tokyo Olympics, but they've been put together since Tokyo. And, well, China have won medals in lightweight women's doubles before, I think 2012, if memory serves.
Yeah, I think this is a great race here from the Chinese. They're going to come through the 1,000-metre mark in second. We saw a fast start from the crews on this side of the course, but the Italians and the Greeks haven't been able to sort of maintain that early pace they had in the first 500 metres, but the Chinese have. And in fact, the Chinese only 0.63 behind the British. I'm really surprised to see that we haven't seen more from the Romanians yet, but perhaps they're starting to move now in this third quarter.
Well, we've just seen the Irish men's pair cooling down in front of us, looking very pleased with their qualification. They made it through from lane number 4, the same as this Chinese double, and almost raced in a very similar way, that they weren't necessarily the quickest off. They had a really strong middle 1,000. This Chinese double are looking to do that. They're also looking to hold off crews to their left. And Sarah, you said about the Romanians, I think they're easing their way back into it now.
Dumitru and Kosmiuc from Romania, the 19-year-old Maria Ilona Dumitru, come into this boat with the double world champion from 2017 and 18, Ilona Kosmiuc. It's her partner's birthday today. She's just seen her partner qualify in the men's pair. They are edging through the poles. China still in that second place, but here come the Romanians.
China ticking it along quite nicely. They're on 36 strokes per minute. The boats around them sort of on 33, 34. So I think China doing a nice job of keeping this boat moving. But the Romanians, I think we're starting to see their bow move up alongside China here. Will they bring the poles through with them? And what fight are we going to see ensue in the last quarter, Greg?
Great question. I'm thinking exactly the same thing, Sarah, that I think the Romanians are easing their way through. The Chinese, when we saw them there, still looked quite light and quite easy. We only had one shot of the Polish double. To me, they looked quite laboured, and I'm not quite sure whether they're going to be able to make the change-up they need. They're down at 35 strokes a minute. The Chinese look like they're keeping a bit lighter and easier. To me, it's whether the Poles can close the gap.
Greg, as the British go through 1,500 metres in the lead, I have to say I haven't seen the British scull as well as that, as loose as that, and as languid. I know they're in that far lane, which has probably got that advantage, but they do look really cool, calm and collected, a bit like the Romanian men's pair, just nothing really worries them, unflappable. Yeah,
well, Grant and Craig have been in this double and they've been fantastic for the last 2 years, looking calm and unflappable. I'm sure it won't feel loose and languid to them rowing into a great big headwind like this, but they've kept the rate low, they've kept the connection to the water really good, and that's got them in that position. We're looking here now for this all-important third qualifying place. What do you reckon on that Polish pair, this Polish double? Will they close the gap?
Well, that's a great question, and Martina Radosh, experience from her back in 2016, the Bydgoszcz oarswoman, Katarina Velnau from Krakow. They've got a great coach from Lukasz Pawlowski, and they have really performed here, but at the moment the Romanians taking it out, Sarah.
Yeah, the Romanians are the fastest moving boat on the course. They have just pushed through the Chinese and they are motoring now. 200 metres to go. Perhaps it's that little bit of advantage that we're seeing on that side of the course. It's almost like a bit of a conveyor belt in these last couple of 100 metres where there's a little bit of protection offered. But look at the Romanians. They're just absolutely flying now ahead of China. It doesn't look to me like the Poles are moving. I don't think they're going to be able to get there over the Chinese.
Yeah, it looked like hard work for the Polish in that third 500, and they've not been able to step on now coming into this last 500. It is that experienced, quality, classy crew from Romania who've gone through. They look like they're going to get the second place as we enjoy watching this British crew coming down to the finish line, sculling well.
Great Britain win this semi-final, direct qualification for their boat for the Paris Olympics. Romania, they'll be at Paris too. Fantastic for them. China, they really took it out and beat the Poles. Hats off to Zhu Kui and Kui Ping. They didn't make the finals of the Worlds last year. They're in it this year, and moreover, the Chinese have got a place in the Paris Olympics.
And just lovely to see that, the British pair there with their multiple-use plastic bottles that they've carried a bit of water with them. There's no single-use plastic being used wherever possible here at this regatta. World Rowing thinking about sustainability, thinking about what we can do in our partnership with clean water. and looked to see the British were still confident enough to carry a little bit of water in the bottom of their boat. So confirmation there, those 3 qualifying places, Great Britain, Romania and China go through.